Howdy, my name is Maggie McCall, and my honeybee presentation is going to be over how royal jelly increases longevity of life in Apis mellifera. To first go over a brief agenda of over what I'm going to be discussing, I'm first going to go over a little bit of a background of what Apis mellifera are and why they are important. Then I'm going to go into our royal jelly, what that is consisting of, and how this is used in the colonies to pose my research question over the relationship between royal jelly and longevity. Then, based off of these experimentation results, I'm going to go into my conclusion, my research significance, and my references. So what are Apis mellifera? So the Apis mellifera is based off of a formal two-name part system of naming organisms that was coined by Carolus Linnaeus in 1751. So the particular bee that we're going to be looking at is the Western European honeybee, which is the Apis mellifera. So Apis is the genus and mellifera is the species. So definition of a species is a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of exchanging genes or interbreeding. And the definition of a genus is a principal taxonomic category that ranks above species and below family, which means kind of the class of the organism. And so why should we care about these bees? So Apis mellifera is the most frequent floral visitor in natural habitats worldwide, averaging around 13% of floral visits across all networks, with also 5% of plant species recorded as being exclusively visited by Apis mellifera. So if we were to ever get rid of these Apis mellifera populations, this would affect our ecosystems since they have such a wide, diverse range of pollination across all plants. Now we're going to go into more of the development stages of Apis mellifera and what they are fed through that development stage. So royal jelly is a milky consistency that is secreted by the hypopharyngeal and mandibular glands of nurse or work bees to provide food for all larvae. So royal jelly, this milky consistency, is fed to all larvae the first 3 days of development. Then after 3 days is up, the queen larvae are fed only royal jelly, while the worker bees transition into a pollen type of diet. So this type of diet has done a lot of research into figuring out why worker bees are so vastly different than queen bees. And kind of based off of this is kind of a genetic process of how you're fed is able to affect your gene expressions. And so based off of this, queens actually live about 40% longer than worker bees. And so how does that make such a huge difference? What is royal jelly composed of? So royal jelly is composed of mainly water, that's around 60%, and around 20% proteins, 15% carbohydrates, 3 to 6% of lipids, and then also the remaining percentages are water-soluble vitamins, trace minerals, free amino acids. So this composition really made me question and made me realize, okay, what is the main factor in this royal jelly that is making such a huge difference in a worker's life in comparison to the queen life? So based off of this, I came up with my question that how can royal jelly affect Apis mellifera longevity? So for my first experiment, to kind of set up the experiment, all 3 cages of bees were fed a soluble made around 30% honey, 70% powdered sugar, and water. So the first cage received no protein at all. So this had no pollen and no royal jelly. The second cage had the pollen diet without the royal jelly. So the third cage received both pollen and the royal jelly diet. So kind of based off of this, the main findings in the study, as you can see in this diagram, was that bees fed with pollen and royal jelly together showed the best survival rate. And based off of this research, kind of digging deeper into the discussion, it found that the major factor affecting the lifespan of caged bees was the total amount of protein ingested. So the mixture of royal jelly and pollen prolonged the lifespan of workers, suggesting that the addition of royal jelly may provide the essential nutritional components for optimal survival, and that royal jelly may really have a longevity function behind it, which is kind of more based off of that protein diet. For experiment 2, we have another very similar experimentation to kind of show and emphasize the importance of royal jelly in that longevity and success rate of survival. And so for your control diet, you have around 0% royal jelly. So this would be around your worker bees, and then you got about 10% royal jelly diet, and then you got 20%. So based off of these discussions, as you can see on the graph, an increased royal jelly intake would increase the Apis mellifera longevity. So this didn't go into really much detail over whether or not the protein had a huge impact on that, but as you can see, protein is around 20% of your composition of your royal jelly. So this is indicating that that might have that, but this is just 100% uncertainty that your royal jelly is going to increase your longevity. For experiment 3, I wanted to kind of go a little bit more in depth over all these different types of diets in relation to the longevity. So the experiment was in order to observe the longevity extension effects of the royal jelly components, there were 6 different treatments that were designed according to the yield of the 4 fractions of the optimal RJ dosage, which is your royal jelly. So each treatment had around 3 cages with bees from 3 different colonies. Dead workers were removed every day until the 72nd day. So based off of all these different compositions, the results said that lifespan of workers fed with 50% pollen and 50% royal jelly were longer than those workers fed with pollen only. But the quantity of royal jelly eaten by workers was still unclear. So there wasn't really a significant difference between longevity workers fed with 2% of royal jelly in comparison to 4% of royal jelly. So higher dosage of royal jelly actually reduced the longevity in the study. But this found that bees with high ratio of essential amino acids to carbohydrate diets had a shorter lifespan than those diets containing low levels of those amino acids. The longevity of extending effect of the royal jelly is not really solely due to the extra protein based off of those results, because your BSA treatment provided around the similar protein amount but caused a much smaller effect in your longevity extension. And because your BSA treatment doesn't have as many lipids and vitamins, it's really unclear whether your royal jelly caused the longest survival due to proteins plus lipids and vitamins. So based off of this, your RJ60 was around the best enhancement for longevity. So kind of based off these results, it's not just the royal jelly, it's dependent on each of these different components within the royal jelly. And having a certain ratio between your proteins and your vitamins, your amino acids is a key indicator of how you can create a better longevity. To give a brief conclusion over the findings of our results, we found that an increase in protein in the diets of Apis mellifera was one of the sources of longevity, but also making sure that there's lipid and vitamins increase in the solution is going to be a key component of that, as well as the amount of protein in the diet is going to matter in relation to your longevity. So what can we get from the findings of royal jelly increasing longevity? So really, in order to keep bee colonies around longer, we may need to introduce a royal jelly diet in small dosages to all members of the hive. A high protein diet is essential for the longevity of bees, and then research into how to manipulate these royal jelly protein ratios could increase that longevity of all bees and making sure we're prolonging the life of all these different bees. And so kind of in conclusion, your increased longevity is going to give you more time for pollination that can occur in these projects. These are the peer-reviewed sources references as denoted A, and then these are for the pictures.